I'm going to start at MIDI.
So we should wait.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
MIDI, can we start without Gerald here? Do we have a quorum? Okay, good. Just making sure.
What are we doing first?
Okay. Mm-hmm. Just checking. Sure. Okay. Good evening. I'd like to call the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting to order today on Tuesday, May 25th at 7 p.m. Before we begin, I have a few introductory remarks. Hello, I'm Chair Adam Miller, and I'll be presiding over this meeting. First, I'd like to thank my fellow commissioners for voting me into this position last meeting when I was not in attendance, so I appreciate you guys. So as we begin, I'd like to review a few housekeeping items for the commission, applicants and members of the public present tonight remotely. Applicants attending remotely will be muted by staff until their agenda item is called. Once called, the applicant will be unmuted to make their presentation and answer any questions of the commission. When your item is complete, which means has been voted on, you are free to leave the meeting. Public comment will be solicited during each actionable agenda item. Once I ask for public comment on a specific item, please click raise hand in the GoToWebinar in order to make public comment. Before being individually identified, all members of the public will be muted. Village staff will announce the speaker by stating their name and unmute their audio to allow up to 3 minutes of public comment. When called, please state your name and address for the record and proceed with your comment, speaking clearly during your allotted time. Important to note, please limit background noise to the extent possible when speaking. Please be sure to identify yourself so we know who is speaking, and do not use the chat or question function in the GoToWebinar, as these functions will not be monitored during the meeting. And as a reminder, this meeting can be viewed live on Comcast Local Channel 18 or streamed at royalpalmbeach.com/YouTube. So we're going to begin by with a Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone would stand, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lauren, can we have a roll call, please?
Absolutely. Chairman Alan Miller,
Present.
Vice Chair Philip Marquis,
Present.
Commissioner June Perrin, Commissioner David Leland,
Here.
Commissioner Ray Nazareth, Lauren McClellan, alternate 1, here, and Gerald Brown, alternate 2.
Okay, our first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion for the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the April 27th meeting. I'll second.
The minutes were all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Minutes were approved, first by Leland and second by Mr. Marquise, and 4-0. First item on the agenda is application number 21-20 AAR, Access Specialty Animal Hospital. The applicant, Kendall Signs Incorporated, is requesting architectural approval for new wall signage for a property located at 10465 Southern Boulevard. Mitty, it's over to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Applicant, can you approach the podium? Thank you, sir. Can you state your name for the record, sir?
Yes, my name is Art Zimmerman. I'm with Kendall Signs. I'm pleased to be here.
Thank you, sir. This is a quasi-judicial hearing, so I need to swear you in. Can you raise your right hand for me? Do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And Bradford, if you heard me, I hope you were raising your hand. Do you also swear affirm to tell the truth,
I
the whole
was.
truth? Thank you, sir.
Yes.
And I'll turn back to the commission, and I'll ask if there are any ex parte disclosures with regard to 21-20 that need to be disclosed at this time.
No.
Thank you. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Bradford, it's over to you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
We see
The
your
applicant is
desktop.
requesting architectural approval for new wall signage, approval for a
Bradford?
veterinarian hospital.
Bradford,
Excuse
Yes.
me, we can see your desktop, sir, but not your presentation.
Okay, show screen. How about now?
We can
That's
see it.
Okay, very good. The applicant is requesting architectural approval for a new wall signage approval for a veterinarian hospital located at 10465 Southern Boulevard. The applicant is proposing one wall sign, which reads Access Specialty Animal Hospital, 24/7 pet emergency in LED limited channel letters. And this slide here shows the color configuration of that sign. Staff is recommending approval of this sign. With that being said, Chairman, I'll turn the floor back over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Bradford. I know the applicant is here. Do you have a presentation, sir?
I have the same similar drawing that we have here. This has been a process. We initially consulted with their branding expert out of California. This is indeed their trademark logo and their corporate colors. And be it that it is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week pet emergency hospital, we feel that it's absolutely vital and necessary to have that specific type of signage. If you were to Google emergency animal hospitals, you would see that 99% of these type of business have such, and we simply can't envision a 24-hour emergency hospital without a sign saying such as well. So again, be it that we've got some branding trademark issues and we've had previous staff approval, we asked to be permitted to begin manufacturing the sign. They have been open a couple of months already without a sign, and it's crucial to, of course, the community. It's vital services, we believe, to the community, and I believe that all of us as leaders, managers of the cities have a certain duty and responsibility to allow such signage.
Thank you so much, sir. Appreciate your presentation. Before we go on, I just want to recognize that Commissioner Gerald Brown is now here.
Thank you.
Thank you. So next is to, thank you, sir. Commissioners, we're going to see if we have any comments. Ms. McKellen?
No.
Nothing for me.
Mr. Brown, do you have any?
Nothing for me.
Okay. Is there any public comment on this item? Lauren, is there anyone online?
No, sir, not at the moment.
Okay. I'd like to request a motion on this item.
I'll make a motion that we accept application NO 21-20 AAR.
I'll second.
All in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion passes 5-0. Motion made by Commissioner Leland and seconded by Commissioner Marquise. Okay, next item on the agenda. Thank you, sir. Your item is passed. Appreciate you. Okay, next item on the agenda is application number 21-04 VAR Publix. The applicant, Robert Wilson, is requesting a variance from section 26-89 4E 51-2S to allow for a total pervious area of 24% where village code requires 25%, a variance of 1%, for a property located at 1180 Royal Palm Beach Boulevard. Mindy, over to you.
Thank you, sir. Do you have other members on your team on the computer?
Yes, we do.
Can they announce themselves, or can you let me know or let us know who they are?
I have Mr. Wilson. I know is with
Netflix. I believe Robert Wilson, David Ortner,
yes.
Sonia Henney, who are both with the ownership, as well as, I hope, Paulo Ferra, who is our landscape architect, and John Messinia, who is our architect.
Okay, what I'm going to do is swear all of you in at once, so if you could all unmute yourselves. Lauren, I think you have them all unmuted at this time.
Yes, I'm going to.
But if everybody who's going to be speaking on behalf of this item, this is a quasi-judicial item, I'll swear you in. You have several items. I'll swear you all in the first time, and you'll remain sworn for the duration. So if you could all raise your right hands for me. Do you all swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
I do.
Thank you, and I'll turn back to the commission and ask if there are any ex parte disclosures with regard to variance 21-04 that need to be disclosed.
No.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You may proceed.
Thank you. Ms. Bradford, it's over to you, sir.
Great, thank you. Again, can you guys see my screen and my presentation?
Yes, we can.
Okay, very good. The applicant has requested a variance from section 2689 4E 51-2S to allow for the pervious area on site to be 24%, where village code requires a minimum pervious area of 25% of the total lot area. The applicant is seeking a variance to allow for an additional 1% of the total lot area to be impervious. This variance request is associated with the site plan modification request for Publix that is also on tonight's meeting agenda. Village Code Section 2632F6 allows the Village Council to grant variances to code when special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land, structure, or building involved, do not result from the actions of the applicant, will not confer on the applicant any special privilege. That a literal interpretation of the provisions of this division would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties. That the variance granted is a minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of this division, and will not be injurious to the area involved, detrimental to the public welfare. The applicant asserts that the existing layout of the shopping center, which includes other uses and related infrastructure, and the owner's strong desire to maintain the existing perimeter landscape buffers has resulted in the loss of 1% of the pervious area and the resulting request for the variance. Furthermore, the applicant contends that they have reduced the variance request to the largest extent possible by absorbing adjacent tenant space and adding parking spaces where such could be accommodated. Additionally, the village's desire for the addition of the pedestrian walkway entering the site will eliminate a landscape island, thus contributing to the minor pervious area variance. Staff adhere to the strict criteria of the code, and village staff is not in support of the variance because staff believes that no special conditions or circumstances exist which are not applicable to other lands. The condition is a result from the actions of the applicant. Granting of the variance will confer on the applicant special privileges that are denied to other lands. The literal interpretation of the code does not deprive the applicant the rights enjoyed by other lands in the same zoning district. That is not the minimum variance necessary to allow reasonable use of the property. Staff requests a recommendation of a denial to be submitted to Village Council regarding application 21-04 VAR. With that being said, I'll turn the floor back over to you, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Bradford. I know the applicant is here. Do you have a presentation to make?
I do. And my presentation actually covers all three, but I can start with the first part of it, Master Chair, and then do the pervious, and then we can, I understand that at that point you like to deliberate on them individually rather than at the end of the entire presentation. So if she could pull up my presentation, do I have it here?
And ma'am, can you say your name too?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No worries.
Forgive me. Adjusting to this new in-person versus virtual. My
We
name
are
is
too.
Jana Loda. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Holland & Knight with offices at 515 East Las Olas, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, here on behalf of the property owner.
Thank you.
It's the PDF, Lauren.
Very good. Okay, I think everyone can see it again. Once again, Jana
Yes.
Loda with Holland & Knight. And we are here tonight actually with three separate applications, the first of which is the pervious variance. So what I'd like to do, if hopefully, there we go. Here's, again, the three applications that are in front of you tonight. First is, of course, the pervious that we're considering now. Also a variance seeking a reduction in the required parking. And finally, the approval of a site plan modification and architectural approval for the Crossroads Shopping Center, in particular the new proposed Publix. So what I'd like to do just briefly is just provide you an overview of the project, which will help you to understand and put into context the variances that we're requesting both first here, the pervious, and then next are parking variants. So with that, for those, I'm hopefully trying to get this on here, sorry. It's not moving. Lauren, are you able to advance it? I can't advance it.
You advance it with the arrows underneath the word where it says create in upper left-hand corner.
No, I'm just trying to advance it. Apologize. The arrows aren't working. All right. I'm going to figure it out by the time I'm done with this presentation. All right, here we go. For those that are watching and may not be aware, the Crossroads Shopping Center is located at the northeast corner of Okeechobee Boulevard and Royal Palm Beach Boulevard. It was actually one of probably the original shopping centers approved in the village of Wellington. It was approved and built back in the 1980s. And other than some redevelopment of the out parcels associated with the shopping center, most recently the 7-Eleven, the inline spaces for the shopping center have remained largely the same. Including our major anchor tenant, which is Publix Supermarket, which is denoted here with the yellow star, which consists of approximately 42,000 square feet presently. So what our client is looking to do is, which is critical to keeping Publix, I must add, in the shopping center, is to demolish the existing Publix and to allow the reconstruction of a new, larger prototype Publix store at this location. And just to help you understand exactly what's happening here, you see here in shaded gray, this is the new footprint of the Publix prototype store. Only one at this point that I'm aware of has been opened in the state of Florida, or in St. Lucie County, which I'll have some pictures to show you a little bit later. But what we are seeking to do here is, again, to increase the footprint of the Publix by approximately 12,000 square feet. However, because we are looking to absorb some of the adjacent tenant spaces, the actual net increase associated with the Publix is approximately 6,600 square feet. So here you see the new footprint in gray. I don't know if you can see it. Your monitors are a little bit closer, but you see the purple dashed line. That shows the existing footprint of the existing Publix, as well as the two tenant spaces that we're seeking to absorb located to the south of the Publix. This image also shows that we are reconfiguring some of the parking located south of the Publix, as well as in front, to just pull back ever so slightly the parking aisles in front of the Publix to accommodate a covered pedestrian sidewalk in front of the Publix, which does not presently exist. So here I'm going to turn now to the pervious variance, and this is an aerial that shows fairly accurately the existing condition of the Crossroads, with the exception of the 7-Eleven down on Royal Palm Beach Boulevard. Here you see the buffers. There's presently a 30-foot landscape buffer in the rear of the property that we are maintaining and actually enhancing with some additional landscaping. You also see the buffers that exist along Royal Palm Beach Boulevard and Okeechobee, as well as, and this is something I wanted to point out for the pervious variance, you see the large landscape island that goes along the north of the main entrance drive off of Royal Palm Beach Boulevard up through the center of the site. In our preliminary conversations with staff for this application, it was requested that we provide a pedestrian connection from that entrance through the center of the site. Presently, the site, as it exists now, actually meets the pervious requirement, and as designed, we continue to meet it. With the addition of the pedestrian paths, though, we did impact our ability to provide the pervious ever so slightly. So on the next few images, I will show you, you'll kind of see, hopefully I'll get this right. Nope, I did not. This one. Here you'll see again the landscape plan, and you can't see very well the pedestrian paths, but the next images show you the locations. There's a new pedestrian path proposed along from Royal Palm Beach Boulevard to the inline shops, and then most recently a pedestrian path that was requested by staff just west of the main access drive off of Okeechobee that you see there in the upper right-hand corner. And on this slide is a blow-up of those two paths that you can see. Of note, because the second path, the one from Okeechobee, was added fairly late, we weren't entirely sure what the total variance would be needed as part of that. So we requested actually the 1%, when in fact the actual variance is more along the lines of 0.3%. So as you can see, it's a minor variance. It's something that was done largely to accommodate requests of staff, which we were happy to do. And with that, I would just fold in the justification statement into my presentation. I won't go through it verbatim for why we believe that we are meeting the spirit and intent of the variance criteria, understanding the existing condition within which we are operating, being a existing improved shopping center. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions as well as any of our project team that's on the line.
Thank you, Ms. Loda. Appreciate the presentation. Commissioner comments or questions? We'll start with Commissioner Brown.
Yes. One of the questions I have is that how will this construction impact the other business in the shopping center?
Impact the other businesses in the shopping center?
Will it have an impact on the other businesses in the shopping center?
Well,
Negative or positive?
I'm sorry.
Negative or positive impact on the other businesses?
Certainly having Publix stay in the shopping center as an anchor tenant will only benefit the remaining tenants in the shopping center. Anybody who is familiar with leasing understands that Publix is key to the lifeblood many times of many shopping centers. And I will tell you that the reconstruction of this 40-year-old Publix is key to keeping Publix in the shopping center. So it's certainly from that standpoint, it will be a benefit to the tenants for sure. As far as any negatives, at most there will be obviously the construction associated with the reconstruction. It will be done in a controlled manner for sure, and be done very quickly. If you've ever seen them done by Publixes in other locations, they are very quick from the point that they shut the store down to reopen.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Commissioner Marquise.
How long do you think this project will take?
At this, I think I might have Robert Wilson join in, but I believe from start to finish, we're talking about a year. Robert, if you're on the line, if you can please state your name and address and answer that question, I would appreciate it.
Okay, you unmuted. I'm Robert Wilson. I'm 4801 Windgrove Boulevard in Orlando, Florida. And the project schedule is 270 days to build the Publix, calendar days from the start of foundations, and then there's about a 2-month demo prior to that. So it would be just under a year.
And the parking lot will still be accessible for the other tenants? Nothing to be blocked?
Well, the parking lot in front of the Publix is for the Publix and is largely used by the Publix, and it will be, a good portion of it will be fenced off for the construction because we're reconfiguring the parking spaces in front of the Publix. So we will have some of the spaces available to the public, but the majority of them will be closed off. But that said, most of the spaces in front of Publix are exclusively used for Publix.
And if I may join in, I pulled up the site plan just to give a little bit better orientation. As you can see, there's 2 natural wide drive aisles on either side of that parking that's directly in front of the Publix. The parking certainly to the north and the south and that wraps around the building will remain untouched during construction. And certainly we will be obviously working with staff throughout the process to adjust as need be to ensure that the traffic flow through the center remains unimpeded.
Okay. And I have done this personally before, this exact scenario, and the what we call maintenance of traffic process will allow traffic a clear path around the work site and know how to get around, and it is very, very accommodating to the public.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I have one question for Ms. Loda or Mr. Wilson. Ms. Loda, you mentioned in the presentation that Publix might leave if they're not approved for this. Can you talk a little more about that?
I'll say what I know, and then I do have the client that is also on the line, David Ortner, who may be able to join in as well. But
Okay.
yes, this is something that is key to basically the continuation of their lease in the center.
Okay, thank you. And I have a second question for Bradford.
Yes, sir.
Just confirming the walkway, what we staff did request the addition of those 2 walkways.
We requested the addition of actually 3 walkways. If you could show that slide, one of them is at the southeast corner of the site, which would service, the residential areas east along Okeechobee Boulevard. And then if you see the rectangle there to the right of the screen, again, along Okeechobee Boulevard, the applicant wasn't showing that entrance, but one of the conditions of approval that we're going to be requesting as part of the site plan is to add another entrance point there. That way that people that are the pedestrian traffic that are walking down Okeechobee Boulevard west to east can enter into the site without having to traverse that ingress-egress point. Mm-hmm. And then, as you can see towards the bottom of your screen, there is another pedestrian access point into the site at the light on the north side of the light that will provide them access so they don't have to navigate through the drive aisles anymore and get to the sidewalk in front of the inline shops on the shopping center.
Thank you, Bradford. Those are all my questions. Commissioner Leland?
You just asked my question.
Great minds. Perfect. And Commissioner McClellan?
I just have a question. You're adding that green area, it looks like, on the back side of the Publix. The foundation planting on the rear side, are you adding that?
To the rear of the Publix, there is a 30-foot wide landscape buffer is that what you're, at the rear?
The foundation.
Oh, yes, those are
planting.
new foundation landscape plantings that are being added. Yes, one is to screen the generator that all Publixes have, that you see on the north side, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for your presentation and answering the questions. Is there any public comment from anyone in the audience here? Okay, do we have anyone online, Lauren? No, sir. Okay, thank you. I'd like to request a motion on this item.
I'll move approval of the variance.
So we have a motion made by Commissioner McClellan. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Marquise. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Okay, on to the next item, application number 21-03, PVAR for Publix. The applicant, Robert Wilson, is requesting a parking variance from section 23-51 2S to allow for 653 parking spaces where Village Code requires 687 spaces. A variance of 34 parking spaces for property located at 1180 Royal Palm Beach Boulevard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Being that all the applicants have already been sworn in, I'll just ask the commission if there are any ex parte disclosures with regard to application 21-03 that need to be disclosed.
No.
Okay, back to you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Bradford, it's over to you, sir.
Great, thank you very much. And can everybody see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, very good. The applicant is requesting a parking variance from Village's Code of Ordinances, section 2351 2S, in order to reduce the number of the required parking spaces from 687 parking spaces to 653 parking spaces for the Crossroads Shopping Center. Planned commercial development, the request results in a requested variance of 34 parking spaces for the center, a 4.9% reduction. The applicant is seeking this variance in order to allow for a tear down and rebuild of an existing Publix grocery store and portions of the adjacent retail shops in order to add 6,623 square feet to the existing Publix, resulting in a new 55,454 square foot Publix grocery store. This variance request is associated with the site plan modification request for Publix, as also on tonight's agenda. Again, Village Code Section 2632 F6 allows for Village Council to grant variances to the code under certain circumstances, and we just went over these. So I'm going to just breeze through these. I'll give you an opportunity to kind of thumb through them. The applicant asserts that the existing layout of the shopping center, which includes other uses and related infrastructure, and the owner's strong desire to maintain the existing perimeter landscape buffers has resulted in the loss of 34 parking spaces in front of the Publix and the resulting request for a parking variance. Furthermore, the applicant contends that they have reduced the variance request to the greatest extent possible by absorbing adjacent tenant space and adding additional parking spaces where such could be accommodated, which is an important point, where they're absorbing spaces within that shopping center rather than building a larger Publix and seeing that shopping center go dark in other areas of the shopping center. So this is kind of a good thing that they're absorbing some of that existing square footage. Village staff, again, is not in support, and we took the criteria quite literally. We are not in support of this variance because staff believes that no special conditions or circumstances exist which are not applicable to other lands. The condition is a result from actions of the applicant. The literal interpretation of the code does not deprive the applicant the rights enjoyed by other lands, and therefore staff is recommending denial to be submitted to Village Council regarding this application. With that being said, I'll turn the floor back over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Ms. Loda, do you have another presentation for us? Thank you.
Once again, my name is Jana Loda with Holland & Knight on behalf of the applicant, and I think Lauren is pulling it up for me. I got it. All right. Give me. All right, so now we are on to the parking variance, which is the second application that's before you this evening that's necessitated as part of the Publix reconstruction. Again, I'm showing you just the aerial of Publix to show you the existing parking condition. You can see here there's actual parking that's located south of the Publix behind the inline shops. That is one of the parking areas that's being implicated, but in a few moments I'm going to show you how we've addressed that and how, although our variance is for 34 spaces, the actual net loss of spaces on the site is much less. The variance is largely a product of the additional square footage that we're adding for a user that's already in the center and not for a new user that's going to bring its own vehicle traffic separate and apart from the public. So with that, let me go to my next slide, which again is just showing the overlay of the existing with the proposed Publix. As Mr. O'Brien noted, although the Publix has a net increase of about 12,000 square feet, because we are absorbing these two adjacent tenant spaces that you see highlighted with the purple dashed lines to the south of the Publix, the actual net increase is approximately 6,600 square feet, which equates roughly to 33 additional parking spaces. With the kind of larger Publix that's squared off there, we are losing approximately 16 spaces south of the Publix in the rear. However, and I apologize that I'm not showing it on this image, we are adding those spaces, 14 spaces of those 16 we're losing to the north of the Publix behind the Walgreens. So we were actually able to mitigate for that loss. The other loss of parking in the front is actually much smaller. We are, to accommodate the covered pedestrian pathway in front of the Publix that presently does not exist, which you'll see in a moment, we are pulling back slightly those drive aisles, so it equates to one parking space lost per row as you go across. So in front of Publix, we're losing a net of about 12 spaces. We're also losing an additional space to accommodate the new pedestrian path from Okeechobee that's coming in off of Okeechobee to the inline spaces. So for the variance, I guess the main point that I'm trying to raise is that the net 34 space variance that we're asking for largely equates to the additional square footage that we're adding for the Publix, which is a user that's already in the center. So we're keeping a user, losing two additional users because of the two tenant spaces that we're losing. This is not additional square footage that we're adding to the center for like a new out parcel, for example, which will engender its own parking demands. And I think that's important to note, coupled with, as items that I pointed out in our justification that's in the backup, that we were trying to fit this within an existing center that has existing drive aisles already constructed, tenants that are already there. buffers that are there, particularly our rear buffer, which we did not want to touch at all. So that caused a certain orientation of the building. So kind of working within a set framework is where we found ourselves. And with a 12,000 square foot increase, we believe that we were able to mitigate fairly well the parking loss, such that the parking even in front of the building is fairly nominal. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have, as well as anybody that's on the call from our team. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Commissioners, comments, we'll mix it up. We'll start with Commissioner Leland.
From what I read, the back of that Publix is a mess. And I saw that you addressed the correction of those loading docks in there.
It's going to be on my next presentation.
Well, I just wanted to point out that I see what you guys are trying to do, and having been a long-time resident, I'm sure a lot of residents would love to see a new and improved Publix in that location. So, but I was really happy to see the way you've cleaned up that back area. So, I'm all for it. So,
Thank you, Commissioner Leland. Commissioner McClellan? I don't have any questions. Thank you. Commissioner Marquise?
Nothing for me.
Commissioner
Nothing
Brown?
for me.
I just have a comment, just, appreciate you guys working to absorb the space to reduce the impact. So opening the floor to public comment. Is there anyone here in the audience who would like to make any public comment? Okay, Lauren, do we have anyone online?
No, sir, we don't.
Okay, great, thank you. I'm closing the floor to public comment, leaving that off. Okay, so now I'd like to request a motion on this item, commissioners.
I'll make a motion that we accept application number 21-03 PVAR.
Motion made by Commissioner Leland. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Marquise. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. On to item 4 of the agenda. Application number 21-02 SPM AAR, Publix again. The applicant, Robert Wilson, is requesting a site plan modification and architectural approval to demolish the existing Publix and adjacent retail shops and build a new 55,454 square foot Publix, covered pedestrian walkway, and reconfigured parking for property located 1180 Royal Palm Beach Boulevard. Committee?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As was stated before, the applicants have been sworn, so I'll turn to the commission and ask if there are any ex parte disclosures with regard to 21-02 that need to be disclosed.
No.
Thank you. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Bradford, it's over to you, sir. Mr. Bradford?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry.
No worries.
Everybody can see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We've hit the high points pretty much on this project over the last 2 agenda items. So I'm going to kind of breeze through here and give you just a little summation of my presentation. The Publix is located within the Crossroads Shopping Center. Majority of the shopping center's inline stores will remain unchanged. The improvements include creation of a covered pedestrian walkway in the front of the store, a dedicated and enclosed loading dock for Publix deliveries, new pedestrian paths and crossings, upgrades to the existing dumpster enclosures, and reconfigured parking. Here's an illustration of the proposed architecture for the new building. And you can see the new covered walkway in front of the Publix where those individuals are outlined there. This is an illustration showing the locations of the landscape modifications, and they're shown in green, which includes landscape island shifts, foundation plantings in the rear of the building, and landscaping in various other areas. And what we did with the foundation planting in the back, we just kind of identified areas where it was hardscape and where we could include greenscape and reduce the pervious area variance. The new pedestrian paths and crossings occur from Okeechobee Boulevard into the site at the southeast portion of the site, here where my cursor is at. Again, off of Royal Palm Beach Boulevard, serpentining, and is it mutually exclusive of the drive aisles. I don't know if this is the exact orientation or configuration of the sidewalk. I think that the applicant showed the sidewalk continuing and then jogging into the center that way. But that's something that we'll be working on and finalizing as a condition of approval to this application. And something that we haven't touched upon, Village Code Section 2675.5, art in public places, requires property owners who renovate or redevelop an existing building where costs of such addition renovation exceeds 20% of the square footage of the existing structure to contribute 1% of the renovation costs to the art in public places. In this instance, the applicant has shown on the site plan a location for the art to be located at the southwest corner of the property at the corner of Okeechobee Boulevard and Royal Palm Beach Boulevard, and is highlighted on the slide in blue. The construction cost provided by the applicant shall amount to $53,785,000 cost contribution to the artwork. A condition of approval has been made part of this approval for this contribution. The selection of the artwork will take place at a future date. And as per village code, no certificate of occupancy shall be issued until such time the artwork is installed. Overall, the proposed site is in conformance with the village's requirements for the general commercial zoning district. Therefore, staff requests a recommendation of approval be submitted to the village council regarding application 21-02 SPM AAR through the adoption of resolution 2111, along with the conditions of approval that 1, the applicant shall construct pedestrian access walkway into the shopping center west of the existing right in, right out vehicle drive at the south property line adjacent to Okeechobee Boulevard and connect to the pedestrian walkway in front of the inline stores to the satisfaction of the planning and zoning director. The art and public places requirements in section 2675.5 of village code must be met. The art requirement for this project is 1% of the total vertical construction cost using a certified cost estimate equivalent to $53,785. And the art installation shall be in location depicted on the site plan installed prior to the issuance of the certificate of occupancy. With that being said, Chairman, I'll turn the floor back over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Bradford. Excellently done. Ms. Loda, do you have another presentation for us?
I do. Jana Loda, once again for the applicant. I have a brief presentation. I'll try not to repeat anything that Bradford just said. Again, here's just another image of the shopping center as it exists now. Here is the site plan that shows the prototype, the new prototype Publix being constructed. That's the major, probably the largest significant aspect of our site plan modification, as well as the reconfigured parking areas, both north and south of the Publix and in front of the Publix, plus the addition of the pedestrian paths that Mr. O'Brien just noted, as well as certain landscape plantings throughout the site, and as also at our certificate of occupancy for the Publix. One of the things I mentioned earlier, and this is one of the commissioners mentioned, was our existing operations for the Publix and how they will be enhanced with the new Publix prototype. Presently, the loading and offloading of pallets from semi-tractor trailers that come to service this Publix occurs outside the building. You can see in the image here on the left, the photograph that was taken real time of the shopping center. You can see the actual motorized elevators that are built into the ground that rise up to help offload the truck. There's one on either side of the Publix. You can see the one on the south side of the Publix a little bit further with the red. You also see that large, fairly mature landscape buffer that we were intent on not impacting in any way. With the new prototype store, you can see with the image on the right, the enclosed loading dock. We actually will have a truck well where the trucks actually will back into the enclosed area so that the offloading of the trucks will now occur in an enclosed space, which is a significant enhancement, as you can imagine, for the residents that live to the west. In addition, as was pointed out, we are adding some landscape plantings adjacent to the Publix that presently do not exist to screen some of the equipment there. Overall, it is a significant improvement over what is there right now in terms of the operations of this store, which we're very excited about. Here's some of those photographs I teased you about earlier. These are the photographs taken from the Port St. Lucie store that I believe was the first one of this prototype to open just last month or in April. Here you see the wider offerings of bakery, seafood, deli, produce, basically all of these offerings will be in one location, a wider location as you enter the store. Similar to Whole Foods, they will have some bulk food, bulk nuts offering that you can see here in this image. Here's another image that shows, again, the wider aisles, the higher ceilings, so you won't have that kind of claustrophobic feeling that you get on some of the older Publixes. Also, the other interesting thing that's going to be added is that unlike just frozen food, all the refrigeration associated with, dairy, you name it, lunch meat, it's all similar to Whole Foods, are in enclosed refrigerated units that you see here in the lower left image. The other thing that kind of highlights the fact that this is going to be a much more open store is the image in the upper left is actually taken at the rear of the store looking out through one of the entrances, which actually are in the front of the store. So you can see the actual shelf height is much lower, just adding to that open feel, wider aisles and whatnot, which is particularly important, as we can probably all understand, coming out of a pandemic right now. Here is the elevation, the existing elevation for the Publix. This is your kind of traditional older store where you enter the store from the sides of the building. So here you're entering it from the north and the south side. This shows that there is a fairly narrow sidewalk, to the extent you can call it that, in front of the Publix. It is not a covered pathway at all. This creates a clear disconnect between, for anybody walking along the covered canopy that we have for the inline shops, going from the north of the Publix to the south, which is going to be addressed with our new elevation, which I know Mr. O'Brien showed already, but here you see the elevation, which provides for the covered pedestrian path, which is a combination of both the tower elements as well as a decorative metal canopy that comes down from the building that you see there that interconnects throughout. We also have barrel tile roof that's being provided that is consistent throughout the rest of the center, as well as a color scheme, decorative metal treatment that breaks up the facade, as well as on the tower elements and brick and decorative block along the base. The other important thing to note is that in connection with this redevelopment, we are also going to be painting the remainder of the center to match, installing LED lighting, as well as the other enhancements that were mentioned by Mr. O'Brien to the center, including the pedestrian paths and whatnot. So with that, I believe, concludes my presentation. Obviously, we're happy to answer any questions that you might have. We appreciate your time and are hopeful for your favorable recommendation.
Thank you for the detailed presentation, Ms. Loda. So commissioners' comments, Commissioner Marquise?
I have nothing. Sounds good.
Commissioner Brown? Commissioner McClellan?
Yep.
Commissioner Leland?
I'm all for it.
I would just say, I know this prototype there's only one other state of Florida, and St. Lucie has it, but ours is going to be better than St. Lucie's Publix.
Yes.
I am
Because
sure
we
it's
love
going to.
We love Royal Palm Beach. Very cool. Okay, I'd like to open the floor to public comment. Anyone in the audience? Anyone online?
No, sir.
Okay, I'm going to close the floor for public comment. I'd like to request a motion on this item.
Mr. Chair, if I could, before you have motions, there were 2 conditions of approval read into the record by Bradford. So your motion, you do not have to repeat what he said, but if your motion could capture that, capture in your motion that he imposed 2 conditions, and you could just say as read by Bradford or Mr. O'Brien.
Thank you. A motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve application number NO 21-02 SPM AAR with those 2 conditions.
Thank you. Motion made by Commissioner Leland. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Marquis. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. And
Thank you very
congratulations.
much.
Okay, on to item number 5, application number 21-15 SE, Costco. The applicant, Scott Backman, Esquire, is requesting a special exception approval to allow for an expanded automotive service station in the general commercial GC zoning district, which includes the addition of 3 fueling pumps for a total of 6 additional fueling stations for a property located 11001 Southern Boulevard. Mitty, it's over to you.
Thank you, sir. Sir, could you state your name for me?
Yes, Scott Backman on behalf of the applicant. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And do you have other members who are going to be testifying either in person or on the computer?
Yeah, I think everyone else in the room. Yes.
Okay, so if you all could stand for me. We're going to do this just like you saw before. I'm going to swear you in once because you have 3 items again. If you all could raise your right hands, do you all swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. I'll turn back to the commission and ask if there are any ex parte disclosures that need to be made on behalf of application 21-15 SE.
No, ma'am.
Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Bradford, it's over to you, sir.
Great, thank you. And everyone can see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. The applicant is seeking special exception use approval in order to expand an existing automotive service station by expanding from 6 pumps to 9 pumps for a total of 18 fueling stations at Costco located within Southern Palms Crossing Shopping Center located at 11001 Southern Boulevard. In reviewing the proposed special exception, village staff considered compatibility with adjacent land uses, consistency with the village's comprehensive plan, in conformance with the village's development standards for the general commercial zoning district. More specifically, whether the proposed special exception is consistent with standards of the village comprehensive plan, complies with development regulations of the village code, does not have inverse environmental impacts, does not have adverse vehicular or pedestrian traffic impacts, does not have an adverse impact upon public facilities, does not have an adverse impact on adjacent properties, is compatible with the character of the living conditions of the existing neighborhoods, does not have an adverse impact on property values in adjacent areas, not a deterrent to the improvement or development of adjacent property, and the proposed special exception will not seriously reduce the quality or quantity of light or air available to adjacent properties. In reviewing the proposed special exception application, again, staff considered it consistent with the village's comprehensive plan and conformance with the village's development standards. Staff is recommending approval of this application and requests a recommendation of approval from the Planning and Zoning Commission be submitted to Village Council. With that being said, Chairman, I'll turn the floor back over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Backman, do you have a presentation to make, sir?
I do. Yeah, thank you. Give me a second here to pull it up and make sure I do it right. Show my screen. Yep. Let's start the slideshow. All right. Great, and like Ms. Loda before me, got a combined presentation. I'll go through the first handful of slides to give you guys a little bit of background on this application. It'll also go through some of the last application regarding the site plan. And then when we get to the parking variance, I've got a separate section of this presentation that I'll go through. First, and I've now had the luxury of maybe 3 or 4 in-person meetings, but it's just nice to be back here doing it in person. I presented at your meeting either last month or the month before virtually, and it's not the same. So it's good to be here. Thank you. Per Bradford's presentation, this is essentially an expansion of a special exception that was approved back in 2006 for the original gas use. We are here essentially seeking this expansion to conform with a Costco prototype that's been going in now, where it's 3 stacks wide, 3 stacks deep. I'll show you on a plan in a second. Essentially 9 pumps, 18 fueling positions with enough width so that people can pull in and out. If you've used some of the other Costco's in the area, it's going in nationwide. On behalf of Costco, we're kind of employing this expansion program throughout South Florida. I think we've already done half a dozen or so in and around the area, and it's really a matter of operations and efficiency. Costco, as you all know, is a membership-driven user, and so we're not really doing this to increase demand. It's really for operations and efficiencies. If you've ever used this station, especially in peak hours, you'll see even from some of the graphics I'm going to show you that it certainly bottlenecks on occasion, and we believe that what we're proposing now is going to address that. So we are in the Southern Palms Crossing Shopping Center. It's on the north side of Southern Boulevard. Obviously, the existing Costco, it's a very, very large shopping center, a number of big box users, a number of other smaller retailers. The Costco gas station is on the far east side. Again, I'm assuming most of you are familiar with or been by the location previously. So, hang on, I gotta move one of these boxes that's up here on the screen. There we go, much So the existing station essentially is accessed from the north to the south. You can see a couple arrows on the screen, and this is actually a better slide. Oh, I did something. There we go. I understand why Ms. Lodo is having issues. So you can see how the access comes in, and based on driveway and throat depth. Currently, again, there are the six pumps, 12-foot fueling positions, and the manner in which a landscape island over by the access drive comes in. It tends to create a bottleneck, especially for those vehicles coming in and seeking to use the two sets of pumps that are a little bit further to the east. You can see here, obviously, some of the backup, and again here, and this is probably a better depiction of the manner in which vehicles come in and then try and find a way a little bit further to the east. And again, what we're going to show you shortly is going to address that. And so what we're looking to do is to expand the canopy, create the opportunity for the 9 pumps, the 18 fueling positions, all undercover, again, providing for the drive width in order to allow vehicles to maneuver in and out as they're obtaining their fuel and finishing up. I think I get a little bit more into detail on some of the site plan matters. So these are our applications. Again, what you'll see tonight is the special exception, parking variance next, and then major site plan modification, which will be ultimately, I believe, the last application that is going to be presented. So you can see the location of, I think I've got a blow up of it, the location of the new position, all of the various access in and around the center. One thing I want to highlight, which I believe is going to come up here in just a moment, is so this curb is actually going to be removed. We are actually picking up, even with the parking variance you'll hear about next, and the removal of this curb, additional landscaping over and above what currently exists on the site by I believe about 50 square feet or so. You know, that was very important even in our early discussions with staff to make sure that we're not losing any landscape area while we're coming in and proposing the renovation of the gas. The other big change here that was requested by engineering, currently there's some signage out there at this at the southern access point that tries to restrict left turn movements out, but it was requested that we add a median out here in order to really create a true right in, right out, given the close proximity to Southern Boulevard. And so that, I believe, is a condition of approval and something that we're in agreement with as well as a minor little change to add an additional pedestrian connection closer to the store. These are some of the proposed renderings of what the new larger canopy will look like with the 3x3 stack, or the 9 pumps and 18 fueling positions. And I believe that is the end of this part of the presentation. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Bachman. Appreciate it. Comments, questions from the commissioners? I'll start with me, I guess. So appreciate the addition of the pumps. I think the pictures you included weren't bad to me. I mean, we've seen a lot worse.
Sure.
Than, all those cars in there. Just had a question. How long would it take to redo the gas pumps?
7 weeks. It's a 7-week construction.
Wow. Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Commissioner Leland or McClellan, whoever wants to. Anyone who has a question, if you got anything.
I just wanted to ask a question about the kiosk. Are you increasing the size of the kiosk?
I don't think it's changing. Yeah, it's just being relocated a little bit. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Leland, anything?
I'm confused, though, as to where we're losing the parking places.
So I'll show you. That gets into the parking variance component. It is just to the south. I believe I've got a slide here that actually shows it without going through the whole variance justification. Right here, if you can see that box.
Okay.
So that's the location. It's just to the south of the existing fueling canopy.
Again, if you've ever been over in that parking lot, parking spaces are a premium, but maybe those aren't. So that was my question. I'm good with it.
Thank you. Commissioner Brown?
No questions.
Okay. Commissioner Marquise?
Will it still be serviceable while they're doing this, or will it be closed?
We'll do this 2 ways so he doesn't have to get up. Yeah, so it'll be operational. Yeah, so they handle the construction one island at a time.
Okay. Thank you, commissioners. I'd like to open the floor to public comment. Anyone in the audience? Anyone online?
No, sir.
Okay, closing the floor to public comment. I'd like to request a motion on this item.
I'll make a motion, we approve application number 21-15.
Okay, a motion made by Commissioner Marquise. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Brown. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. We'll move on to item number 6 on the agenda, application number 21-14 PVAR, also Costco. The applicant, Scott Backman Esquire, is requesting a parking variance from section 23-51-2S of the Village Code to allow for 1,752 parking spaces where previously granted variance order VC 0904 allowed for a reduced parking requirement of 1,764 spaces in lieu of the 1,792 required by code for a property located on 11001 Southern Boulevard. Committee?
Thank you, sir. As was stated before, these applicants have been sworn in, so I'll turn to the commission and ask if there's any ex parte communication that needs to be disclosed with regard to application 21-14.
No.
Okay, back to you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Bradford?
Great. Hopefully everyone can see my screen.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Not to go over what you just stated, the current request is to accommodate the proposed expansion to the existing automotive service station, again from 6 pumps to 9 pumps for a total of 18 fueling stations at the Costco shopping center. Again, these are the variance criteria, and I won't go through this again. We've seen it twice already tonight. And again, as Scott Backman showed, this is the area here where this drive aisle will be pushed southward, shortening these parking aisles, and that's where the variance and the loss of parking spaces will occur. Tonight, again, Scott Backman will go over the justification for his variance, and again, staff took a literal interpretation of the criteria for Village Code. Those special conditions or circumstances exist, which are not applicable to other lands. Condition is the result of the actions of the applicant. The literal interpretation of the code does not deprive the applicant the rights enjoyed by other lands. Staff is recommending denial of this application, and requesting a recommendation of denial be submitted to Village Council. And with that being said, Chairman, I'll turn the floor back over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Bradford. Mr. Backman, you have the rest of your presentation?
Great, yes,
Or
thank
next
you
part?
very much. Let me get this up here. Show my screen. Got it. Okay. All right, excellent. So I'm going to run through the variance criteria specifically, and more so graphically than anything else. But obviously, in looking at this very early on, and we've been looking at this expansion for quite some time. I think started talking to Bradford about it a number of years ago, a number of different configurations, always trying to be very sensitive to the parking, the location of those parking spaces. There were 2 or 3 different configurations that we had looked at various times, as well as ensuring, as I said earlier, that we're not losing any landscaping in this configuration. Ultimately allowed us to utilize parking spaces furthest away from the front entrance of the Costco and actually pick up some additional parking. So what I want to point out here, though, is some of the more unique or special conditions in this particular case. When this shopping center was approved, that right-of-way on the north side of the property was originally all part of, and it was dedicated. And as I'm sure you're all aware, having been by the area, there are 52 on-street parking spaces. They are public. They are not private. They are not part of the overall parking spaces for the shopping center. They're immediately adjacent and behind the Costco and provide an addition of parking spaces in the area. In addition, we commissioned, and Chris Hagan, our traffic engineer, is here sitting by himself in the center of the room. And we commissioned a traffic analysis that Chris performed with the center, utilizing data as it relates to the various types of uses, and actually shows that at the absolute peak hour in the weekend for the demand, that there's a surplus within the entirety of the shopping center. And remember from the graphic you saw earlier, this is a very large shopping center with 1,700 plus parking spaces. We're asking for about a 0.07% variance in total of the entirety of the shopping center. But in order to ensure that we met the special conditions and all the other requirements associated with the variance, we did perform this analysis, which shows that there is additional surplus parking within the shopping center. The fact that the hardship, again, is not self-created. There is additional parking out in the area. The shopping center itself, again, through the parking analysis, has more than enough parking during peak demand hours in order to ensure that parking needs will be met. Certainly, we don't believe that any special privilege, again, considering what I identified as special conditions, the fact that between the surplus hours based on the parking demand and the adjacent off-site spaces, there's a surplus out here within the shopping center of 158 parking spaces. The fact that, again, essentially this entire variance relies on the fact that we performed the analysis, that there are additional spaces, that there is not going to be an issue or a problem associated with the parking. And again, all of this associated with the site plan that you saw previously with the special exception and that you'll be seeing with the site plan application next is contingent upon an operational need in order to improve the circumstances in the area and help address that bottleneck over at the gas use. To Commissioner Leland's point, again, we tried to really ensure that we were utilizing parking spaces. Again, we're talking about 12 parking spaces that were far enough away in proximity, currently located immediately behind to the south of where the existing gas use is, and not taking spaces from elsewhere in the center with a different configuration for the proposed use. And again, not in harmony with and not injurious to the code. You know, we believe actually the exact opposite of that this improvement with the parking variance and the associated applications for the special exception and the site plan are actually substantially better for the overall shopping center, for user traffic within the shopping center, for those that are utilizing the gas use in particular. And with that, and interestingly enough, staff is recommending approval of the prior application and the site plan modification, understanding that we needed to provide the parking analysis, present our case to this board as it related to the parking. Again, our traffic engineer's here if you have specific questions, and we are happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bachman. Questions from the commissioners? Start with Commissioner Marquise. Commissioner Brown? Commissioner McClellan? Commissioner Leland?
Well, what I wanted to confirm in this is that you're actually streamlining the exit from what I'm seeing. Is that correct?
Streamlining
the parking places that you're taking out is because you're exiting
that's
those people
absolutely correct.
to the south.
Yes, sir.
Correct? Okay. No other questions.
I have no questions either. I'd like to open the floor to public comment. Anyone here? Okay. Anyone online, Lauren?
No, sir.
Okay, I'd like to close the floor to public comment, and I'd like to request a motion on this item.
I'll make a motion that we accept application NO 21-14 PVAR.
Motion made by Commissioner Leland. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Marquise. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. And now to item number 7 on the agenda, application number 21-13, SPM AAR, Costco. The applicant, Scott Bachman Esquire, is requesting a site plan modification and architectural approval to expand the existing member-only fueling station to add 3 fueling pumps for a total of 6 additional fueling stations, relocate the existing kiosk to accommodate a larger gas canopy, and modify the parking area to accommodate additional stacking for a property located at 11001 Southern Boulevard. Committee?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And as was stated previously, the applicants have been sworn in, so I'll ask the commission if there are any ex parte communications with regard to application 21-13 that need to be disclosed.
No.
Thank you. You may proceed, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Bradford, you have a presentation?
I do, and I'm going to try to be brief. I think that we've kind of gone over this once or twice, maybe even 3 or 4 times. Again, in addition to the pump islands, the applicant is proposing to extend the canopy northward to accommodate the additional pumps, relocate the existing kiosks farther south to accommodate the larger gas canopy, modify the parking area to accommodate the expansion of the gas canopy and relocation of the kiosk, and reconfigurate the curbing at the northeast corner of the gas station queuing area to accommodate additional stacking. Additionally, the applicant has agreed to an engineering department request to add a curbing, creating a median within the Lansing Lane right-of-way, limiting left turn in and left turn out vehicular movement at the southernmost entrance of Lansing Lane. In reviewing this petition, village staff considered conformity with the Village of Royal Palm Beach's zoning code of ordinances pertaining to the general commercial zoning district. Specifically, the proposed project meets the requirements of the general commercial zoning district as it relates to parcel size, parcel width, setbacks, pervious area, parking requirements with the exception of the parking variance, landscape areas, and maximum building height. Overall, the proposed site is in conformance with the village's requirements. Staff requests a recommendation of approval to be submitted to Village Council regarding application 2112. And with that being said, Chairman, I'll turn the floor back over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Bradford. Mr. Bachman, you want to finish out your presentation, sir?
You've seen all my slides. Happy to answer any questions.
Great. Commissioners, we have any questions? Commissioner Brown? Commissioner Marquise? Commissioner Leland?
Nope.
None from me. Okay. I'd like to open the floor to public comment. And anyone online? Okay, I'm closing the floor to public comment. I'd like to request a motion on the item.
If I could just make one comment again, there is one condition of approval that was stated by staff, so if your motion could include that condition, that would be appreciated.
Thank you, Mitty.
Yeah, I'll make a motion, we approve application number 21-13.
With the additional conditions? Thank you. So a motion made by Commissioner Marquis. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Brown. Thank you. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Congratulations, Mr. Bachman. Thank you
all
for your
very much.
presentations and for the group. Next item on the agenda is board business. Our next meeting for the Planning and Zoning Agency is Tuesday, June 22nd. Don't think, commissioners, you're getting out of here just yet. We do have a meeting of the local planning agency after this, so just letting you know you can't leave yet. So I have a motion to adjourn the meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
I will second that.
Oh, I need a first.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Okay. I don't know who, all in favor?
Philip and then David.
Yes, thank you. And all opposed? Okay, we are closing the Planning and Zoning Commission. Thank you for that. Calling to order the local planning agency meeting on Tuesday, May 25th at 7 p.m. Do I need to?
No, sir, you can just have Lauren let the record reflect that the same commissioners are present.
Okay.
Yes, the record shows that all the commissioners are in attendance.
Thank you. First order of business is to approve the minutes. Do I have a motion from the last meeting?
I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes of the last meeting.
I'll second it.
Motion made by Commissioner Marquise and seconded by Commissioner Leland. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The minutes pass 5-0. So our other item on the agenda is application number 20-112 RZ Lakeside Landing. The applicant Wantman Group Incorporated is requesting rezoning approval to rezone a 12.28 acre parcel from the general commercial GC zoning district to the multifamily residential RM9 zoning district to allow for the development of a 100 townhouse unit development for a property located northwest of the Okeechobee Boulevard and Royal Palm Beach Boulevard intersection. Mitty, over to you.
Thank you, sir. Do we have applicants on the phone?
I have all of
computer?
WGI on the phone.
Okay, if we could just make sure they're unmuted. This is a quasi-judicial item, so I need to swear everybody in. So if you are on the phone and you're going to be testifying on behalf of item 20-112, if you could raise your right hands for me. Thank you. Do you all swear from the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. And as you begin to present, if you can confirm that and state your names for the record once you're doing your presentation, just state your name for the record for the first time. I'll turn back to the commission and ask if there are any ex parte communications with regard to 20-112 that need to be disclosed.
No.
With that being said, back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Bradford, do you have a presentation on this?
Great, thank you. I'm assuming everybody can see my screen.
Yes, sir.
The rezoning of 4 parcels of land, totaling approximately 12.28 acres of land from the village's general commercial zoning designation to the village's RM9 multifamily residential zoning designation. The site is currently vacant land, and the applicant has indicated in their justification statement that the ultimate goal is to develop the property for 100 townhouse dwelling units as a proposed density of 8.14 units per acre. In reviewing the proposed rezoning of the parcel to the RM9 multifamily residential zoning district, village staff considered compatibility with adjacent land uses, consistency with the village's comprehensive plan, in conformance with the RM9 multifamily residential development standards in section 2684 in regards to parcel size, parcel width, setbacks, and pervious area. And if you remember, this property received a land use change recently, and this zoning district is consistent with that land use change. Village staff generally agrees with the applicant's assertions regarding compliance with the village's comprehensive plan, again with the village's code of ordinances and state statutes. Staff requests a recommendation of approval of application 20-112 RZ. And with that being said, Chairman, I'll turn the floor back over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Bradford. You're doing a great job tonight, sir.
Thank you.
No problem. Lauren, does the applicant have a presentation to make?
Mrs. Libbs is on. Lindsay.
Yes, I do. Hi, good evening. For the record, Lindsay Libbs with WGI, agent for the applicant. Can you give me permission to share my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
We can see your screen now.
Or did you push whatever button to?
I think, ma'am, you have to go to the right and click on your PowerPoint, maybe?
What is she supposed to click? It says accept or something when?
She needs to just pull on her personal screen. She just needs to pull up her presentation. This is the invite to this meeting.
She is in GoToWebinar right now. She just needs to click on her presentation.
Correct.
So, ma'am, if you could minimize your screen and then go to your presentation.
Maybe we could just go to it there.
There we go. We can see your presentation.
Can you
ma'am.
all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Now we can.
Okay. You can see my screen here, the presentation?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry for that technical difficulties. Let me do slideshow from current slide. As Bradford indicated, the property is known as Lakeside Landing. It is just over 12 acres in size, and it is on Okeechobee and Royal Palm Beach Boulevard. We are requesting a rezoning from general commercial to the multifamily residential RM9 zoning district. The application was approved on August 20th of last year for a large-scale amendment to change the land use from commercial to multifamily. And this rezoning will create a consistency with the existing land use designation. Again, this is an outline of the subject site, and we are proposing to rezone it to RM9. A brief history of the actual application. It received site plan approval originally in 1988, and there were various modifications through the course of the project from 1991 to 2000 that changed the uses on the site. In February of 2020, the latest approval aside from this was a Dunkin' Donuts that's adjacent within Waterway Plaza. And then again, last year in August, the application was approved to modify the land use on our parcel known as Lakeside Landing from commercial to multifamily. This is the prior approval as a whole. It was initially approved with 147,126 square feet of commercial. There's about 106,000 that is unconstructed, which is representative in a portion of the area that we're asking for approval of townhomes. There is an existing shared access drive off of Royal Palm Beach Boulevard that will be maintained as part of this application. In terms of traffic, the commercial is a higher trip generation than the residential. The addition of the townhome and removal of the unconstructed commercial square footage will result in a reduction of just over 2,500 trips, or 77% decrease in anticipated trips. We have traffic approval that was prepared and submitted for the application and is still valid as the time of this presentation. It meets all Palm Beach County standards. We have a letter of support from the shopping plaza. They are anxiously awaiting the construction of the new residence next to their businesses. We are consistent with the rezoning standards, as Bradford indicated. We do meet the village's standards for rezoning. Staff is recommended approval. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Libbs. Any comments or questions from the commissioners? Commissioner Brown? No. Commissioner Marquise? No. Okay, I have no questions either. I'd like to open the floor to public comment. There's no one in the room. Is there anyone online, Lauren? Okay, thank you. I'll close the floor to public comment. So I'd like to request a motion on this item.
I'll make a motion we approve application 20-112.
I think Ms. McClellan was trying to.
Can't see her.
So is it okay to give it to her? Okay. So motion made by Commissioner McClellan. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
There you go.
There you go. Seconded by Commissioner Marquis. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you for that. Thank you, Ms. Libbs. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry for the technical difficulties.
Thank you. Next meeting for the commission is Tuesday, June 22nd.
And if I could interrupt you on that one, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
There is the potential, and Bradford can jump in here if he wants to, but there is the potential that we may need to move that next meeting date. So we wanted to bring to you tonight for consideration and to let Lauren know whether a week later on June 29th may work for your schedules. If you could let us know either way, we will figure out what we need to do if we do in fact have a quorum for that date. So just be pushing it back 1 week. Okay. And if anybody else knows their schedule as of this moment and you know you have a conflict, let me know. But otherwise, you can let Lauren know either via email or phone.
Good.
Gotcha.
Good day.
You miss it, you're in trouble.
So can I have a motion to adjourn the local planning agency meeting?
I'll make a motion we adjourn.
Motion made by Commissioner McKee, seconded by Commissioner Leland. Commissioner Leland, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, and have a great night. And thanks for making my first commission meeting.
You did excellent.
Thank you. Great. Thank you.
Excellent job there, sir.